So welcome to the July SNAC meeting. This is a meeting focused on special needs, activities, and different things going on in Palm Beach County and beyond sometimes. And my name is Carrie Morse, and I'm a consultant working with Unicorn Children's Foundation. And we are so happy to see you this very hot July. I know sometimes attendance is low because of schools out of session, but we will be recording this and we will be sharing it for those that aren't able to attend. So let's go ahead and open the meeting with some introductions. I'll try my best to call on everybody and pronounce your name hopefully correctly. And if you could give just a brief introduction about yourself, your role, if you are here on behalf of an organization, and you're welcome to make any announcements that could be good for the group. All right, so let's start with Destiny Rawls. Destiny, you're first on my list. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Destiny Rawls from Legal Aid. I'm with the Education Advocacy Project.
Great, thank you for coming, Destiny. Nice to see you. Elaine Plasterstein. Elaine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Unmute. Okay, I forgot to unmute.
There you go.
My Elaine Plasterstein, and I have a son, Adam, who is 29, soon to be 30, and planning his big birthday bash with platters of food from Publix. Healthy stuff. And that is, I'm a parent.
Welcome, Elaine. I hope you find this meeting helpful, and tell all the other parents we're here. We love when parents come to meetings.
I will that at the next Family Care Council meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Family Care Council does come sometimes, and also the Parent Education Network is represented. So spread the word indeed. Thank you. Eric, are you able to unmute yourself?
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm not sure what was happening. Hi, Eric Fradlick, Supervisor, Ticket Disciplinary Services at Career Source, Palm Beach County. Great to see everyone again, and looking forward to a great meeting.
Thanks, Eric. All right, Erica Son. Hey, Erica.
Hey, how are you? I'm Erica Son. I'm an attorney at Legal Aid and the Education Project as well.
Thank you, Erica. Jean Malaco. Hey, Jean.
Hey there. I'm a parent representing Family Care Council 9 here in Palm Beach County. We're the only voice of families in Florida on the behalf of the DD. We meet one time a month to discuss matters pertaining to APD legislation and receive information from other agencies.
Great, Jean. Nice to see you as always. Next up is Juliet. Hi, Juliet.
Hi, I'm a self-advocate. I'm autistic myself. I run a nonprofit organization in the Tampa area, but also virtual events too. It's called Autism and Neurodivergency Advocacy Association. And I put some info in the chat for our current fundraiser that's going on, but happy to be here.
Awesome. Juliet, we're so happy that you're here. Thank you so much. We love self-advocates to join us. And I'm definitely going to take down your information. Thank you for putting it in the chat. Let's connect. All right, next up is Katie. Hey, Katie.
Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Maya. I'm with ABA Centers of Florida. We provide ABA therapy to children on the autism spectrum. We also provide full neuropsychological evaluations as well to come to a diagnosis of autism. We have very minimal wait lists at the moment. And a couple events we have coming up is we have a free ADOS 2 training in Orlando. That's going to be the beginning of August. ADOS is the assessment tool used to inform a diagnosis of autism. There's long wait lists out there, so we're doing it free for the community so that we have more people out there that are able to do that. And then the other event is we have our Boca Clinic grand opening. It's at the end of August, August 28th in the morning, 8 to 10 a.m. If anybody's interested in attending, I would love to see you all there. And I'll put my information in the chat so you guys can reach out if you need to.
Thanks for sharing, Katie. Next up, Kimberly Harris. Hey, Kimberly.
Hi, My name is Kimberly Harris. I am the intake specialist at Vocational Rehabilitation. And we help clients that have impairments or disabilities to get jobs and maintain their jobs.
Thanks for coming, Kimberly. Next up, Maria Gutierrez.
Hello, I'm Maria Gutierrez for Early Intervention and Inclusion Manager for ELC Palm Beach County. In the chat, I'm going to put my information. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Next up, Mary Kendall.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mary Kendall with Special Olympics. I cover Palm Beach County developmental sports. We have free programs ages 2 all the way through college, mostly in schools, but they could be community-based. I am at some ABA centers in Martin County. I'm at a Y in Boca. So if you're interested, we include everything for free: equipment, curriculum, activity guides, and some stipends for certain programs that meet the criteria.
Thanks for coming, Mary.
Thank you.
Rachel Baker Blackwell.
Sorry, took a little time to find everything. I'm like, I had everything ready. And of course, when it's time, it's like you're searching all around. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Baker Blackwell, and I work for the Department of Health under Children's Medical Services. And, you know, we're a little different from the old days of Children's Medical Services, but we're still out there. We support our community partners as well as the school system and pediatric doctors in the areas of behavioral health, transitions, special health and special needs transition, and patient-centered medical home. So that's what we're doing. We don't have anything special going on, but we are working on some grants, and hopefully that will extend out and support everyone else. Thank you.
Awesome. Best of luck. And last, Wendy Sabona.
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes, hi, Wendy.
Okay, hi, my name is Wendy. I am the new special needs advocate for 211.
Welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We've missed Jennifer in meetings, so we're so happy that you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Jennifer was awesome.
Yeah, still is, but so are you. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much. All right. So now I'm going to turn it over. And as folks arrive, they're welcome to introduce themselves. I did want to make one announcement on behalf of CARD. Have you all seen the information floating around for training I'm bringing up my email. Is anybody from CARD on here? Okay. So, they're doing a training for the, I'm trying to read the email specifically. I'm so sorry. Curriculum training to improve interactions with autistic and intellectually developmental delayed individuals during emergencies. So they're reviewing topics on behavior management techniques, de-escalation strategies, alternative communication methods, and more. So it's free for all first responders. If you haven't received that information from CARD, that's a great thing to pass along to the first responders in your area. I'm hoping that they get a lot of folks signed up, and the training dates look to be July 24th, 28th is one set of trainings, and then July 25th and August 17th. You could reach out to Tarika at FAU CARD, or Jack Scott are the two contacts for that. Does anybody else have any information to share about that or questions?
I don't have any information. I just wanted to introduce us, if that's okay.
Yeah, we're going to introduce the speakers as they're ready to speak. Do you want to introduce yourself now?
No, okay.
Okay, all right, real quick. Next up, I just wanted to introduce Dr. Poplawski. And Dr. Poplawski has some really great information about trainings coming up that she is going to share with us.
Hello, everybody, and I'm happy to be here with you. And I am here to talk about a series of trainings on dual diagnosis that are the result of a 5-year grant between the National Association for the Dually Diagnosed, or the NAD, and the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council, or FDDC. We are at the pilot stage, so we are just going to do a series of trainings for the very first time, and we'll continue to offer these trainings for the next few years. The trainings are on introductory topics related to dual diagnosis. The topics include, the first one is the obvious one, understanding dual diagnosis. Then we have crisis prevention and intervention and how to reduce risk in those situations. I am personally working effectively with autistic people and augmentative and alternative communication. And we also have offerings on trauma-informed approaches, excuse me, and positive supports and wellness. So these trainings are going to be available in August on virtual as well as live formats. And as I said previously, this is only the beginning. We are collecting feedback on these initial trainings and will make modifications as needed to any issues that arise. So I wanted to give you that alert. You may contact the FDDC for more information because they will have that available. And unfortunately, the virtual trainings in August are already overbooked. But again, I know I've said it twice already. I'll say it 3 times. We're going to do this for 5 years, so there'll be several opportunities. I have put my information in the chat. I believe I forgot this .com piece after my email, but I think you can fill that piece in. So thank you very much for allowing me to make this announcement, and hopefully we'll meet at some point in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Plasky. Thank you for coming, and what an exciting partnership. This is very needed. So I look forward to hearing back on how the trainings go. If you'd like to come back and let us know, that would be wonderful. Thank you. All right, next up, I wanted to introduce our speakers and the Unicorn team. So first up, Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself? Nicole is our family navigator at Unicorn Children's Foundation.
Hi, I'm the family navigator at Unicorn Children's Foundation, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thanks, Nicole. And then next, Jaimee and Sid, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll roll over to Matt's presentation, and then you guys are going to go ahead and present after Matt.
What's going on? My name is Dr. Isidro Pentzke. I'm here with the Unicorn Children's Foundation, and I'm excited to be here. And hope you guys really enjoy our quick presentation that we got going on that highlights how you can connect with Palm Tran and with our Family Navigator program.
So hi, everyone. Welcome. And Carrie, thank you for hosting this. You're doing a great job, and welcome to all of the moms and also the self-advocates. I'm really proud of you. I think it was Juliet, and we have one other self-advocate. I'm sorry I missed you, but so proud. I'm a mommy first to a soon-to-be 27-year-old. So Elaine, I've got my little one as well. She's not little. They're not little anymore, right? And she'll be celebrating her 27th next week. So happy birthday to your son. And yes. And then not only am I a mommy, but I'm also the executive director for Unicorn Children's Foundation. And just a little plug, we have our Wellington event, Back to School Party in the Park, on August 4th. We would love for you to join us. And then we have Dance Flow, which is Dancing for a Difference, on August 5th. And there's still a few tickets left. So please be sure to come and join us. We'd love that. So thank you, Carrie.
Awesome. So we'll hear back from the Unicorn team. But first I wanted to introduce Matt. So Matt Spritz is here with us today. He's from the Spritz group, and he's going to talk about the Florida legislative process and how everyone in this Zoom room can be the most effective public policy advocate that we can for our special needs populations here in Florida. Welcome, Matt. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Jaimee, and thank you for everyone for having me here. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share my second screen, and hopefully this works correctly. Is
That looks great.
everyone's looking at they should be looking at the front page of my presentation?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, first of all, I have to say, this happened, sort of last minute. I was meeting with Jaimee and Sid last week about something not really related to this. So I represent Unicorn Children's Foundation. I'm the contract lobbyist for Unicorn Children's Foundation and thrilled to be serving in that capacity. I'm the managing partner of the Spritz Group, which is a government affairs firm focused on state and local government relations in Florida. And in meeting with Jaimee, we were talking about a lot of different things. And somehow, some way or another, this meeting came up. And all of a sudden, Jaimee just looked at me and said, "Oh my God, you have to present." And I'm like, well, and so here I am, everyone. And it's great to be here. I put together, really just, 7 or 8 slides on what would constitute an overview of the Florida legislative process, a little bit of a summary of what happened this past session from a substantive standpoint, and then also from a budgetary standpoint, and then some general tips on how to be an effective policy advocate. The disclaimer here is that this is not meant to be like an in-depth treatise on different areas of substantive policy or on the state's budget for the year, but simply meant to provide what I hope is an interesting overview to everybody on this call. And then obviously I'm happy to answer questions afterwards. If there are additional materials that I can provide with respect to some of the topics after we're done, I'm also happy to do that too. So with that being said, let me jump in and hopefully this is going to work. There we go. All right. So the first slide is a shameless plug for my firm and myself. No, I'm kidding. Just an overview on the Spritz Group and who we are and what we do. As I said, we're a general government affairs firm. We focus on state and local government affairs and politics in Florida from a public policy standpoint. So we're not political consultants. We're not, advising people on running races or campaigns or things like that. It's really issue based and issue focused. Although, as I will talk about a little bit later, sometimes that can butt up against campaigns because elections matter and elections have consequences. Myself, I'm an attorney. But I've worked in a number of capacities in the state's political process. I've worked in the legislature. I've run campaigns. Before I opened up the Spritz Group, I was the legislative affairs director for one of our larger state agencies in Tallahassee when Governor DeSantis was first elected. So let's get into it. So, and you're going to see me looking this way because this is my screen over here. So if I'm sort of talking this way, you'll forgive me if it's not straight on. So just a brief overview of Florida politics and the legislative process. And you see there's a lot of information on this slide. So I'm going to go sort of bullet by bullet and then talk a bit. Florida has a bicameral state legislature. So there's 2 houses, a lower house, the Florida House, and an upper house, the Florida Senate. The Senate has 40 members. The House has 120 members. For any idea to become law, including the budget, it has to pass each chamber in identical form and then be signed into law by the governor. And that's key because there are bills inevitably at the end of every session that are bouncing back and forth from one chamber to the next. And if it doesn't pass in identical form, then the bill dies. And I know many of you are probably familiar with the state legislative process. So again, if I'm giving you information you already have, you gotta roll with it and bear with me. Each year, the Florida legislature convenes in Tallahassee for a 60-day legislative session. So this is a little bit different. Some states are in session year-round. Some states are in session for 9 months. Florida has a 60-day session each year, which is actually great because it forces the members to do stuff because there's a limited amount of time. They have to pass a balanced budget for the next fiscal year. It's at different points each year. So in election years, like 2024, session takes place in January and February. That's because the members want to get out faster and raise money in campaign. In non-election years, like this past session takes place in March and April of that year. Leading up to session, the legislature convenes in Tallahassee for a series of 6 or 7 committee weeks. This upcoming year, they're going to be in October, November, and December. In addition to advancing substantive bills during these weeks, there's also some work going on behind the scenes on the state budget for the next fiscal year. Individual members of each chamber can file bills to become law or sponsor appropriations projects to be written into budget and ultimately funded by the state's coffers. in order for a bill to get to the governor's desk or be part of a budget, it has to have a member sponsor in each chamber. So you can't just have a House member running your bill or running your project. You'd have to have a Senate member as well. The last point is something that, I think is, now I think it's sort of more well known, but over the last decade or so, a lot of people would sort of think about Florida as this quote unquote swing state. You hear, news outlets talk about Florida could be purple, it could go this way or that way. But for purposes of this conversation, I think it's important to remember that Florida is a very red state, and it's been a very red state since the 1990s. So the Republicans control both houses of the legislature. They've controlled the governor's mansion uninterrupted since the late 1990s. In fact, Democrats statewide, and I'm not talking about federal offices, I'm talking about state offices now, have only elected 2 statewide office holders in the last 25 years. And that was one in 2006 and one recently, Nikki Fried, as the ag commissioner. And the reason that's important is because I think it's important to remember ultimately in Tallahassee who controls the levers of power, who controls the purse strings, who has the keys to the doors. And when you think about it like that, it's important to realize that Florida is actually a very red state. It's not a swing state at all. How does an idea become a state law in Florida? So this is like the schoolhouse rock slide, if you can conceptualize it that way. So if you have an idea, how do you go about, what's the process by which that idea goes from being something that could be good policy to being actual policy? So first of all, I talked about the House and the Senate and the fact that Florida has a bicameral legislature. It's important to remember that legislation can originate in either house. Or either chamber, I should say. So it's not like it has to originate in the House or it has to originate in the Senate. An idea can happen and originate in either chamber. So you have, in theory, a House member filing a bill and a Senate member filing a bill, known as the sponsor. The person who files it is the sponsor. Once a bill is filed, it is referred by the chamber's presiding officer, so that's the Senate president and the Speaker of the House, to one or more what's known as committees of reference relating to the bill's subject. So typically a bill is given, sometimes it's 2, it's usually 3 committees of reference relating to the subject matter. So for a bill to move through the legislative process, it will typically have what's known as 3 committee stops. That means it has to be heard and ultimately pass through each one of those committees before it reaches the House or the Senate floor. There is then a full vote in each of those chambers. And again, an identical version of the bill has to pass both chambers for ultimately it to move on to the governor's desk and be signed into law. If a bill is not heard in each of those committee stops before the end of session, the bill dies until the next legislative session. A bill can be, and typically is, amended as it moves through the committee process. So you have to think about committees as a way that policy isn't just heard in a public way, but also very much ideas are refined and input is given and stakeholder input is given. So it's really an important part of the legislative process to think about a bill just kind of like being filed and going to the House and going to the Senate and being voted on. That's not really how it happens. It moves through a series of committees where it's heard and refined and people have input. And it's really think of it like a kitchen where there's like a lot of cooks moving through and and making alterations to the dish so that the final product is what's good policy. And if it's not good policy, then you have an opportunity to have input there too. In theory, if a bill shouldn't pass. I'm just going through the bullets and see if I covered everything. And then again, once it passes both chambers, it proceeds to the governor to sign or veto the bill. So this is a brief glance at the session that just ended. Well, not just ended, but the 2023 session, which was March and April of this past year. And I don't want to get too in the weeds on these bills. These are examples of bills that passed that I thought those in the special needs advocacy community would find interesting. HB1 is one that's, I think, sort of at the top of everyone's list. That's a bill that's what I'll call the universal school voucher bill, but it also greatly expands the scope of services that the Family Empowerment Scholarship can provide and support. So I think that's important for everyone on this call. But you can see also, you know, I want to focus on by the numbers, because I think that's also sort of important to just like conceptualize how the process works and how it really winnows down lots of different ideas into what ultimately becomes law. So you have last session almost 1,900 bills which were filed, and of those 1,900, 350 were passed and ultimately what was known as enrolled, which means they were sent on to the governor to sign or veto. And by the way, in my experience, that's actually a very high number. I mean, typically, in my experience, roughly 9 to 12% of the bills, the number of bills that are filed, ultimately pass. So it's a very small number. I mean, you can see the number of amendments that were filed were even more than the number of bills that were filed. And so, you know, it's you're talking about thousands and thousands of bills and amendments, and you know, it ultimately what's passed off the floor and sent to the governor is a very, you know, small fraction of that, just to give you a sense of how the process really works to winnow ideas into ultimate policy. Again, I'm not going to get too in the weeds on these. You know, I'm happy to send around a copy of this presentation afterwards. If anyone has any questions about these bills, I can provide, you know, the final committee analyses, and everyone can read up on that. So this is just an overview of what happened last session from a budgetary standpoint, because I think, you know, you think about session from a substantive standpoint, but also from an appropriation standpoint, you know, as sort of the other big thing that happens each year. Again, you know, unlike the federal government, which, you know, you hear about sort of running up a national debt and borrowing money, the state can't do that. The state, by law, every year has to pass a balanced budget. That's part of what the legislature has to do before they can go home from Tallahassee. The fiscal year in Florida runs from July 1st to June 30th. So this past session, the budget that was passed is going to run from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. That's how that process works. The budget for this year is $117 billion, which is the largest ever. It's important to think about that, though, and you can see my next bullet. You know, every year over the last few years, the state has passed the largest budget ever. Part of that are, you know, more people moving here, because Florida is you know, the state's budget is really funded by trust funds and sales tax. That's most of it. It's people moving here, people visiting here. You know, over the last couple of years, some of it was COVID money. But I mean, even just like 2 or 3 years ago, the budget was under $100 billion. You know, when Governor Scott first came into office, I guess it's now like 12 years ago, the budget was like $70 billion. So just to conceptualize, I mean, the state's budget has really grown, but it's really a function of more people moving here and the state needing to provide more services to more people. I provided a little summary. So you can see a link also. The governor's office puts out a pretty detailed report on the budget. You know, again, and part of that is a press release. I've excerpted the piece on persons with disabilities, just so, you know, we can have it for the presentation. But that link there, you know, you can, and again, I'll provide this, sends you to a document. It's like a 30-page PDF that gives you lots of different details on all facets of the budget, and you know, and ultimately how it's put together in the different silos. So, by the way, does anyone have any questions? I was gonna stop at the end, but before I move on to like the next slide on like how do you advocate, I feel like I should stop here, because I've just like literally dumped a mountain of information on everyone, and I feel like there might be questions.
I don't see anything in the chat. All right, let's keep it moving.
All right, let's keep it moving. And I want to add something. So, and this, I think, it's actually a really nice segue into being an effective public affairs advocate. So something to remember about the legislature is that it's very much siloed by policy area, right? And so, you know, the budget isn't just written by like 2 or 3 people. It's you have different silos from healthcare and education and criminal justice and the environment. And each one of those silos in the House and the Senate has like a budget chair that essentially is responsible for that piece of the budget. It's a lot like that in policy too. So if you are a member that files a bill concerning commerce, for example, the committee references that you're going to get are like 2 commerce related subcommittees and then like the full commerce committee. And you have to think about the process in a way siloed like that, because that's how policy moves through. It's not just, you know, leadership directly, or, you know, this member over here and that member over there. You really have to think about it in terms of like a series of silos that sometimes talk to each other, but believe it or not, sometimes don't talk to each other. And so, you know, that's I think a nice transition in terms of talking about, you know, how are you an effective public affairs advocate? How do you target, you know, yourself? How do you build consensus and develop legislative champions on issues, right? And you can think about it in that way in terms of different silos. So the most important thing that I would advise anyone as an advocate, whatever your issue is, and I advise my clients this all the time, and that's the big orange box. Know your issue or know your project and be able to explain the public ROI succinctly. So it's important to be credible and be armed with facts. But equally important is to understand that if you're meeting with whether it's an elected official or, you know, someone at a state agency, these are busy people. And they're busy people with a lot of stuff going on their plates. In the case of elected officials, they probably have 50 different areas of policy that they're trying to get smart on and keep straight. And the biggest mistake you can make, in my opinion, is to go in and think that your issue, even though it's super important to you, is going to be necessarily top of mind for them. It might be, but it might not be. And so it's really, really important to be able to tell your story in a way that captures the person's attention succinctly, right? And this is about messaging, and this is about communications and being able to tell your story. And that's not to say that there aren't all sorts of really interesting facts and figures and things that you can roll into a story. But typically, if you're meeting with an elected official, they aren't as knowledgeable as you are on the issue. And they have like 10 other things that they're also sort of downloading from a policy standpoint. And so it's really important to be able to explain your issue or explain your project in a way that they can easily digest, and in a way that they're able to easily digest what the public return on investment is, whether it's a policy change or an investment like a project. So with that in mind, the first bullet point, drafting a short form one-pager. So anytime I have ever gone in to go and meet with an elected official on an issue, chances are the second or third question is, hey, can you send me the one-pager on that? That's like universally like what I'm asked. If it's an appropriations project, if it's a bill, if it's an organization that's just sort of looking to get noticed, that is always, hey, send me the one-pager. So what is a one-pager, right? A one-pager is exactly what it sounds like. It's a short form of marketing collateral that is graphically appealing, that explains the public importance of your issue. It explains your organization, who you are and what you do and what your history is. And it states what your ask is, not in like a demanding or entitled way, but just in a very factual way and why it's important, and is able to tell a compelling story. This is not an easy thing to develop. I mean, it's not like, oh yeah, everyone has a one-pager and they're all great. Like, this is really a difficult exercise to be able to take an issue, especially in the world of special needs, and distill it down to what like is the equivalent of a 90-second soundbite on one piece of paper, or front and back on a piece of paper. But it's a really important exercise to be able to be an effective advocate. And that doesn't mean that you don't have supporting materials and other things to back up what you're saying. But the one-pager is ultimately what's going to tell your story to someone who may not be familiar on your issue, and allow them to digest it in a way that gets them on board and potentially makes them a champion. So the second point, building stakeholder coalitions. You know, and again, I think it's important to understand this from the perspective of the person who you're meeting with. You know, they don't know if this is an important issue to just you, or if it's an important issue to lots of different folks in your space. And so, you know, there's certainly strength in numbers by having stakeholder coalitions or associations, or, bounding together in terms of like resources, right? Kind of like the individuals on this call are all united with a purpose. It demonstrates public importance and public support for an issue. It optically shows that this is something that's important to like the grassroots community, including potentially the grassroots in that person's district. So it speaks to whether or not the person you're meeting with knows that this is something that can help get them reelected or not. And then the last check mark, organize a day at the Capitol, right? I mean, that's if you're at a place where you have a lot of different people and there's, and I've done this for clients where, we all get together and we have a slate of legislative meetings, and you can almost think about it like speed dating, but it's important, as a show of force on an issue. It can be very effective if it's done correctly. Creating legislative champions, and I've alluded to this a couple of times. It's important to not just have, sort of shallow support, but to also have elected officials that are champions for the issue. It could be something that's, at the school board level, right? Where you have one member that is like, I am going to take this issue to district staff, and that person is your champion, and they're really the person who from the inside is going to push it. It could be true at the county commission level. It can be true in city politics. It is certainly true at the state level. Having a member, preferably a member in each chamber, that is a champion for your issue, because again, typically that mirrors filing bills and moving them on a dual track through each chamber, or filing a project in the same way, it is critical, right? I mean, these are the individuals that are really going to advocate from, for your issue or your project from the inside. You could have the best lobbyist in the world, but ultimately, like if you don't have legislative champions for the issue, it's going to be very challenging to effectively advocate for that issue. And this isn't easy either, right? There's a lot of strategic decision-making that goes into who's the right messenger politically, in terms of like that person's bandwidth, in terms of what's important to that person. It's not just, willy-nilly, I'm going to pick this person. It's important, to understand. And again, this is why, the last point, hire a lobbyist if you can, right? The lobbyist can help as a go-between, can help make that process go faster if you have the resources. But that person can also advise you in terms of like who the right champions for your issue would be. And then lastly, I put a bullet on here. I haven't talked too much about politics. I mean, I talked about the dynamics of state politics, but state and local elections matter. They really do. They're not, like who wins can have a real impact on dollars and substantive issues. And so, again, in the nonprofit community, you can't like go and support candidates because you lose your 501 status. But as individuals, you can either with time or with board members or however it's structured properly. But be thinking about candidates that can champion issues, because elections matter, election outcomes matter. And I think it's important, to be an effective advocate. You want to be proactive and support the candidates that support you and support your issues. And I think, is that the end of my slide?
It went away.
It went away. I don't know why. Let's try this. There we go.
There you go.
Thank you, everybody. So I have Q&A there, even though we did a little Q&A in the middle. I feel like I just talked for 20 minutes straight, and I unloaded an absolute amount of information on everyone. I hope it was interesting and informative. I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope that was clear. I see Jaimee sort of nodding her head. but happy to. Yeah, go for it.
I have a question. Yeah, I was just curious. What do you think the biggest challenge is for parents when they advocate? What would you suggest? I know you said have that one sheet, and I got into all of this advocating on my own, but I see that there's other moms and also self-advocates, which I love. Yeah. And if you're not in it, it's really difficult. So, I mean, would you suggest that they team up with an organization? What would be the best?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I appreciate it. And you know, again, like Jaimee, knowing your story, and we've talked so much about this, like I know where you're coming from. So and again, I think this is the, you know, like numbers, there's strength in numbers, right? And so like this entire process for like an individual parent advocate can feel incredibly daunting and intimidating. Like, how does one person go into the Capitol or go in front of an elected official and really break through and make a difference? Although I've seen it done, and I've seen it done really effectively, by the way. But I do think that for this conversation, I think you hit it on the head. I think being part of an association, teaming up with an organization, if there were enough concerned parent advocates, they could literally form an organization, right? Like the Association of Concerned Special Needs Parent Advocates. And then that organization goes to Tallahassee for a day at the Capitol and meets with, you know, members of the local delegation or members who are involved in this policy silo, and to talk about like, hey, listen, this is what we care about, and this is why this issue is important for Floridians and why it should be important to you. Does that answer your question?
That was perfect.
Okay, good deal.
Thank you.
Matt, Juliet has a question.
Okay.
Juliet, you want me to read it for you, or you want to go ahead and ask Matt? Okay, so Juliet asked, what are the limitations of what a 501c3 can do with going to the Capitol and talking to legislators? So is this not allowed? Must it be an individual?
Yeah, no, so a 501c3 can absolutely have conversations with legislators about issues. What you can't do as a 501c3 is like, you know, you can't give money to campaigns, you can't engage in anything that's seen as, and I'm oversimplifying this, but I'm giving you the summary, right? The line is between issues and politics and electioneering. So a 501c3 cannot engage in electioneering or politics or donations or campaign activities or anything like that. But a 501c3 can absolutely go to the Capitol and meet with members and advocate for an issue. And 501c3s all over the state do that. They do it every day. They hire lobbyists to help with that. So that's absolutely permissible. And I will add that even though a 501c3 cannot engage in those activities, the individual board members of a 501c3 in their capacity as private individual citizens can engage in those activities, so long as it's very clear that they're acting on behalf of themselves and not the organization.
I also wanted to turn attention, for those of you that are not familiar with Disability Rights Florida, that's one of the largest advocacy groups in Florida for special needs populations. So I put their website there. If you're interested, I know we've had them on sharing information about different sessions and bills that they support and follow. So you're welcome to explore that a little further.
Carrie, I'm going to add one more thing that I didn't say during the presentation, because I talked in like broad generalities, but now I'm going to say something very, very specific, which is that, and I assume everyone on this call is in Palm Beach County for the most part, right? A good starting place on a lot of these issues is to identify who your local House member is and your local state senator is, right? So like, and you can get that from like the Supervisor of Elections website and figure out like who those individuals are, and then just call their office and say, I'm a constituent, I have an issue that's really important to me, and I'd like to meet with Representative so-and-so or Senator so-and-so. And chances are, and I mean, I know them all really well, and they're all really good people, and for the most part, pretty committed public servants, they'll meet with you. Like they'll meet with you, as long as it's not like in the middle of session and they're like, hey, I got to go take a vote. But if it's like off session and they're in their district office, if they're here, like they will meet with you. And that's a really good place to start, just from a constituent standpoint.
Great point. And I think that they appreciate getting the education when they're not in the middle of session, so that they can understand things in a little bit broader scope.
Yeah, and Carrie, I advise clients that all the time. I mean, that are looking to meet with members, and they're like, hey, let's go during session when they're all like taking votes and they're on the floor for 9 hours straight. And I'm like, hey, let's not do that and figure out a way. It's a little bit more onerous for us, but let's do it like over the summer when they'll actually sit with you for an hour and like you'll really make an impression and your issue will cut through. And like that's how you really do it. And it's just so much more effective that way.
So Matt, upcoming timeline, right now is really the time to think about your one pager and to start introducing yourselves to local folks, and then start thinking about how you're going to plan out the next session and what your ask is going to be. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to tell everyone. I don't want to tell the folks on this call like, hey, you should all go try to get a bill filed and like, I mean, that's a big lift. I mean, even for a lobbyist who's got like years and years of experience, right? But I do think in terms of like, just from an advocacy standpoint, in terms of issue awareness and building relationships in the public sector, now's a great time to be thinking about this because you do have that downtime and you probably have the ability to access your local lawmakers.
Yeah. And one more point I want to make, SNAC is a great way to meet other like-minded individuals that could collaborate together on something. I know that there's many agencies that are either on this call or not on this call that have gone through this process years and years and years in a row. So, the ARCs and the Goodwills, and I know CARD, and so a lot of folks have a lot of experience with going through this process. And I'm sure that, we would all be willing to help each other out. So that's another way that we could connect. Great. Any other questions? Oh, Juliet said that she's motivated. All right.
Good. I like that.
Yeah. All right. And Jean says, thank you for simplifying the legislative process. Yes, it's very overwhelming. So you did a really great job, Matt, on really laying it on a foundational level for us.
Yeah, and again, it was a few slides, which I'd be happy to circulate. This was like the 50,000 foot version of like how a bill becomes a law, so to speak. There are all sorts of like caveats and maneuvers and, like you can have like bills getting in this way. Like there's all sorts of like exceptions and procedures, as I'm sure everyone realizes. But this was meant as a very like foundational, like, hopefully approachable way of understanding, how that process works each year.
Great. So y'all have Matt's contact information there, and you're welcome to reach out if you have any additional questions. And again, Matt, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you all. I'm going to drop off the call now, but I really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm going to stop my share now.
All right, Jaimee, you and Sid can take it away.
Okay, so I'm just going to share screen. And we're going to shift this a little bit from what Matt said to bringing everyone up to date. If you know, or if you don't know, I just think it's something that I know Unicorn Children's Foundation, just like all of the other foundations and everyone here today, will be interested in, because this is an avenue that really helps all of us and our community that we serve. So today we're going to be discussing Palm Tran, and we're including also obviously Palm Beach County, Florida, because that's where we are, and then Unicorn Children's Foundation that we are a part of. And also want to mention, I'm so delighted that we have someone from 211, because we have one of those programs within your program, and we're delighted that we can have you be a part of this as well. So that was a great surprise. So today we're talking about the eligibility process for the community we serve regarding Palm Tran. So as everyone knows, Palm Beach County is the third largest county in Florida. We have an estimated population of about 1.5 million people. And of that population, 7%, it's estimated, has some form of disability. So what we like to do, just like everyone else is, on the same page, we look at what the need is, and it's about filling the gap. And the big challenge is, how does this population that we serve get transportation? So here we go. We've got the Palm Tran. It's a public transit bus system run and supported by Palm Beach County. And it spans from North Palm Beach all the way down to Belle Glade, and then from Boca Raton all the way up and through to North Miami. So the compliance with the Americans with the disability, or the compliance regarding the ADA, along with Palm Tran's program, offers anyone with a disability transportation. So Palm Tran provides accommodations for those that have difficulties traveling between their residence and a fixed route. And we'll get into what a fixed route is. The service works within 3/4 of a mile of any Palm Tran bus route during the same hours and days as the Palm Tran fixed route. And it's from Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., as well as Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So when you're talking about the service itself, we have the eligibility for the ADA service. So anyone can receive eligibility as long as they have a disability that prevents them from getting to or riding to the fixed bus route. Eligibility is directly related to the ability of that individual in particular. It's not based on a diagnosis or the type or form of disability that one has. It's based on 3 different areas. The first area is the fixed route, not being accessible. And the second one is the person that's unable to navigate the system. I know we have a few individuals here that need a paratransit person with them. And the third area is boarding and disembarking locations that are not easily accessible. This is where our family navigator comes in, because our family navigator is one that can help you navigate this
complex.
Yeah, this complex journey, but also to become eligible for it. Sometimes that can be daunting in and of itself. And there's an average, just to mention, Sid felt it was important, and I think it's important, that each month there are 360 approved ADA applicants. Oops. Okay. So how do you qualify for eligibility? Again, we said that we have our Nicole, our family navigator here, and I know that she would be more than happy to answer any questions. But when we're looking at qualifying for eligibility with the Palm Tran, there are 4 tests when determining someone's eligibility. The first area is, does this individual's disability prevent him or her getting to and from a bus stop at that point of the origin or destination? The second area is, can the individual board, utilize, and disembark the vehicle at the bus stop? Can they do it independently? Do they need additional assistance? Can the individual recognize the destination and disembark the bus independently? Many times individuals will get on the bus and then miss the stop, or they will miss that area of the port of entry. And the last area is, if the passenger's trip requires transfers, are the paths of travels between the routes easy to navigate? Are they easy to find? Is it easy for that individual to find that area to access? Oops, sorry.
That's good.
You sure? No,
Yeah.
do you want to?
Yeah, well, let's go back just for 1 second. And we just want to make sure that we're clear with a couple of these things, because I know that these were some questions that I was asking Palm Tran. When we're talking about the disabilities for these patients or these riders, it could be anything from a broken leg to somebody with some form of disability, learning disabilities, or Asperger's and things like that. So they really encompass a lot of different things. And they also have another program that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on that will actually help them with the ride share and things like that.
Okay. So here's the first call. It's applying for service. So what do you have to do? So there's a pre-assessment questionnaire. It's an overview of the connection paratransit services and what services they provide and can provide to you. The applications will be sent to the applicant via US mail. So this is something really tricky that I know they switched recently. They are no longer available on the web page, and that's because people were taking advantage of this. So everything has to be expedited through the US mail, and applications will have a unique applicant ID, and any applications without an applicant ID will not be processed. So it's a little bit of a tricky road, but it's easy to navigate once you have the assistance of someone, or as long as you know the process. Part of the challenge is educating the customers about the fixed route and also other transportation options. So fixed routes are bus travels throughout Palm Beach County, and they offer half a fare for seniors 65 and over. The buses have the ability to kneel down. They can accommodate passengers with special needs. I know that there are several individuals that are on the spectrum that use their bikes. The bus driver will make sure that the bikes get on, whatever it is that they can do to help accommodate. And there's also wheelchair ramps as well. Do you want to do this?
Okay.
Oh, the second call, the applicant will need to actually physically call the eligibility department to schedule their second assessment call. Here, if anyone needs additional help, I know that our family navigator will be able to help if someone needs that assistance. But I know the agencies that are on here also, I'm sure that they have people that can participate as well. But should you need that, we can help. The expectations during the assessment, you should be prepared to be on the phone for at least 30 to 45 minutes because there is a review of each question from the eligibility questionnaire. They're going to be focusing in on the detail of the customer mobility needs. There are areas that are non-visible conditions that one may not know about, and this could be something that could be a part of the application process that they would have to be made aware of. And then upon completion of the call, determination will be made if the medical form needs to be sent to the medical provider. When you're talking about the verification options, the eligibility agent will determine if a medical form needs to be completed by the medical provider. So if there's any question and it's not easily apparent, then the medical provider will be asked to come in and participate. Medical forms can then be waived if mobility, cognitive, and accessibility conditions are permanent and verifiable. Medical verification can be assessed at any time with the customer while they are active with the service. Then we have unconditional, when we're determining by the type, there is unconditional, conditional, temporary, and then ineligible, and then denial. But everyone has a right to appeal. Unconditional, it's pretty self-explanatory under any circumstance, and thus eligible to make all trips using complimentary paratransits. Conditional are individuals who are able to use Palm Tran services under some circumstances independently. And then we're looking at temporary. This is what you were saying before with assistance if someone breaks their leg or needs that type of assistance to help them on embark and then also disembark. Okay. Are there any questions so far? Nope. I'll go on. So this is where our community comes in. So the transportation for the disadvantaged, it's the TD program. And it's sponsored by the state of Florida. And it's a trust fund. And the service is provided anywhere in Palm Beach County during the same hours and the same days as the Palm Tran fixed bus route.
And it's really important to understand that when we're talking about this program, that this is going to be for those that really need that hand-to-hand service. So if you have somebody that is highly functional, but maybe they space out when they're on long trips and they need somebody there to say, okay, now we're ready to make the change from one location to the next, that this is really where this program really thrives. On top of that, they do communications between West Palm and, Palm Beach County and Miami, because Palm Tran doesn't go into Miami, but there is a way for them to make a seamless exchange between the two.
So how can you become eligible for the TD service? So you must submit proof of income or have a physician complete a medical verification form. And also the completed application, which again has to be submitted via the U.S. Postal Service. So the TD program is for disadvantaged individuals who become either physically or mentally disabled. It could also impact individuals through their income status or their age of individuals that are unable to transport themselves or to purchase transportation and are therefore dependent upon others to be able to get to their medical appointments or to be able to go to their job or to school or any social activities or life-sustaining activities as well as children who are handicapped or those individuals that are high risk or as defined in the statute. And then the TD trips will require a $3.50 charge per each one-way trip, and that's the fare for all of the trips, regardless of the
destination.
Right. And then and there will be no exceptions. So customers are expected to pay their fare upon boarding, and failure to have your fare ready may also result in the rescheduling of your transportation. I also know that there are cards, because I know we have a few individuals that have their permanent card, and then it can always get updated. And then if you have any questions, you can also contact the Palm Tran office. Option 7, I've had to call them on several occasions. Yeah.
So just to let you know, the $3.50 per one-way trip is actually offset by Palm Beach County. So they do have a trust that actually goes in to help all of these riders that are going in. You can also purchase a little booklet, and that booklet allows you to have so many rides. So that's something that our family navigator is happy to assist anybody with. So if you guys have any questions about how can we get this little booklet or how do we get somebody set up on this program, our family navigator is always willing to speak to people and kind of help them navigate this form that they have to fill out.
Okay. And I guess, well, I would like to answer any questions that you might have, but I do want to tell you that we had an incident in which our location was difficult to reach because we're hidden. And sometimes the Palm Tran has a tough time, but they've always made it a point to now get out of the Palm Tran, come and find us. And so we found them to be really helpful. So are there any questions or concerns or comments?
I want to add to that, Jaimee. I think that for some of you all working with agencies and having riders, calling a manager at Palm Tran is super helpful if you have groups of riders coming to the same location, so that the manager can let all of the drivers know specifics about how to enter the property or, you know, what to do. Also, we're in hurricane season. So it's going to be really important, you know, if there's storms and your agency decides to shut down and all of those things, that you reach out to the manager and let them know once you reopen and all of those kinds of things. So that's also another great way to be in communication with Palm Tran at the kind of higher level, so that all the drivers get the same information. Their managers are super efficient over there, so I appreciate them.
They really.
Another thing that you may want to do is, if you have riders that are looking to do it for the first time, there is an app that you can download for them on their phone, and you can literally set up a schedule for them, and they have little alerts that allow them to know you're at this stop and you're going to be getting off in like 2 blocks and things like that. So it's another really good tool that they've done to help their riders. So they really have gone above and beyond with their ride share.
They have staff that can do travel training as well to get folks ready for regular bus riding service. If they need some travel training, they can come and they could do that for free for groups or individuals as well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you guys for sharing. Any
Absolutely,
questions?
I think that was helpful.
I don't see any questions in the chat. Anything else that folks would like to share before we adjourn? Super lovely. Thank you, Juliet. Yes, you're welcome anytime. I know you're in Tampa, but you're welcome to join us.
And Juliet, if we have anything that's going on, we can definitely reach out to you virtually, because we have a lot of people that we do programs with that may not physically be here, but are virtual. So I think that that would be really something lovely that we can share with. And we also have, if anyone is close, we have a community craft night. And our next event is, when's our next event? I should have that.
That's the 4th.
Right, Treats with Tommy.
Oh no,
No.
that's I don't know.
Sorry, I just want to get the dates all. So we have Family Fun Night, which is the last Wednesday of each month. And then we also have Community Craft Night. And we're reaching out so that this way we get new members that will come and join us. And it's all free.
And I'm thinking our next month's topic may be, we're waiting for confirmation. We've invited the Southeast ADA Center to come and do a presentation on creating accessible materials. So those of you that have created PowerPoint presentations or Canva or Google Slides, or interested in flyers and websites, how to create those materials that are accessible for all individuals, especially those using screen readers. It's a very tedious process, so we wanted to go through kind of the do's and don'ts for that. So hopefully we will verify their attendance for the next meeting. And if anybody is interested in any other additional topics or would like to present themselves, please reach out to us at info@unicornchildrensfoundation.org and let us know. And we will see you for the August meeting next month. It's August 15th at 2 p.m. All right, everyone. See you next month. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.